It rises above the Alps like a blade, 4 ridges slicing the sky. Each face drops thousands of feet into the valleys below, and storms strike without warning. To climbers, it is irresistible and often unforgiving. This is the Matterhorn, one of the deadliest mountains on Earth. More than 500 people have died here since the First Ascent in 1865. Every year, new names are added to the list. On Toblerone bars, it looks harmless, but on the mountain itself, beauty hides danger. The Matterhorn rises 14,692 feet above the Pennine Alps, straddling Switzerland and Italy. From the Swiss village of Zermatt, it looks almost unreal. 4 ridges meeting in a single point above glaciers and alpine meadows. That same shape makes it lethal. The ridges funnel storms straight onto climbers. Rock and ice break loose without warning, whistling past anyone below. And once you're on the route, there is almost no way back down safely. Even the glaciers at its base add to the threat. As they shift and melt, they loosen rocks that tumble down the slopes. In winter, avalanches sweep entire faces clean. By the mid-1800s, the Alps had already drawn waves of ambitious climbers. Mont Blanc, the Jungfrau, the Eiger, all had been climbed. But the Matterhorn stood untouched, its steep ridges considered impossible. Italian teams tried repeatedly on the Lion Ridge, only to be beaten back by rotten rock and collapsing weather. Among the hopefuls was Edward Whymper, a young British artist who turned into a climber. He failed 7 times from the Italian side. Each defeat only sharpened his obsession. In July of 1865, Edward Whymper returned to Zermatt with one last plan. This time, he would follow the Hernley Ridge, a sharp spine of rock and ice leading to the summit. At dawn on July 14th, his team set out. Hour by hour, they moved higher, cutting steps in ice and scrambling across ledges. By early afternoon, the summit came into view. At 1:40 p.m., Whymper pulled himself onto the top. For the first time, a human being stood on the Matterhorn. The last great alpine problem was solved. But triumph lasted only minutes. On the descent, a single misstep changed everything. Douglas Haddo slipped, striking Michel Kras and pulling 2 others with them. The rope snapped, and 4 men fell nearly 4,000 feet to the glacier below. Whymper and 2 others staggered back to Zermatt with both victory and catastrophe. The broken rope was displayed in the village church, a grim reminder that on the Matterhorn, glory and disaster are only a step apart. Whymper's warning still echoes. Climb if you will, but remember that courage and strength are nothing without prudence, and that a moment's negligence may destroy the happiness of a lifetime. The accident of 1865 gave the Matterhorn its reputation, but the tragedies didn't end there. They kept coming, each one adding to the mountain's dark legend. In 1931, 4 German climbers set out to be the first to conquer the unclimbed North Face. They were last seen alive high on the wall as a storm closed in. Days later, their bodies were visible from the valley, frozen in place. The climb was called the last great problem of the Alps. 2 decades later, in 1950, a rope team was swept away by an avalanche. Tons of snow and ice buried them instantly, their bodies unrecovered until the thaw. For witnesses in Zermatt, it was a chilling sight. A rope of climbers erased in seconds. Even the centenary of Whymper's ascent brought disaster. In 1965, 4 climbers fell from the Hernley Ridge almost exactly 100 years after the first accident. The parallel was haunting, as if the mountain itself had staged a reminder that no amount of modern gear could soften its danger. By the late 20th century, the numbers told the story. More than 500 climbers were gone. Each year, 8 to 10 more still die. The toll is higher than Everest, even though the Matterhorn is less than half its height. Around 3,000 climbers attempt the Matterhorn each year. Most take the Hernley Ridge, the standard route, but even here, accidents are common. Other ridges are harsher still. The Lion Ridge on the Italian side is longer and steeper. The Zermatt Ridge is remote, with no easy retreats. And then there is the North Face, one of the legendary trilogy of great alpine walls, alongside the Eiger and the Grand de Jorasses. Nearly a mile of ice and rock, it is both prize and nightmare. Climbers here face collapsing seracs, vertical ice fields, and constant rockfall. Only the best attempt it. Many never return. Not every story is tragedy. In 1965, Italian climber Walter Bonatti set out alone on the North Face, one of the most dangerous walls in the Alps. For 5 days, he fought storms, ice, and collapsing rock, sleeping on tiny ledges carved into the wall. When he reached the summit, exhausted and frostbitten, his climb was hailed as one of the greatest feats of the century. Bonatti's solo ascent proved that the Matterhorn could inspire not only fear, but also some of the boldest achievements in mountaineering history. From Zermatt, the mountain looks peaceful, mirrored in alpine lakes and glowing at sunset. Tourists ride gondolas for photos, and Toblerone bars still carry its silhouette. But climbers face a very different reality. With warming temperatures, the permafrost that binds the mountain is melting. Rockfall has become more frequent. In recent summers, parts of the Hernley Ridge were closed entirely because the route was too unstable. Experts warn the mountain is breaking apart faster than ever, and safe climbing seasons may soon shrink. Climbers who attempt the Hernley Ridge speak of waiting in line on icy ledges, pressed shoulder to shoulder, as stones whistle past from above. At dawn, ropes are coated with frost, hands go numb on cold steel, and boots scrape against brittle rock. Progress is slow, and one mistake in the queue can drag everyone below. Thousands still line up each year, chasing the dream of standing on Europe's most famous summit. For some, that dream ends in rescue. For others, in tragedy. The rescue statistics are staggering. Zermatt's helicopter crews are among the busiest in the Alps, often flying multiple missions a day in peak season. Most accidents happen not on the way up, but on the way down, when climbers are exhausted and weather closes in. In July of 2015, during the 150th anniversary of Whymper's ascent, celebration turned into chaos when a violent storm struck the Hernley Ridge. Lightning lit the sky as winds tore at ropes, and climbers clung to narrow ledges. 5 people were lifted off by helicopter in a single afternoon, while others were forced into an emergency retreat down the ridge. What was meant to honor a historic triumph became a reminder that the mountain still rules its own anniversaries. Long queues only make the danger worse. Climbers sometimes wait for hours on narrow ledges, exposed to rockfall and storms with no quick escape. For guides, the challenge is not just the climb, but the sheer number of inexperienced people drawn by the Matterhorn's fame. At the base of the mountain, Zermatt keeps a climber's cemetery where many of the Matterhorn's victims are remembered. Stone crosses and plaques bear names from around the world: guides, tourists. Fresh flowers appear every summer, left by families who made the same journey to Zermatt, but never saw their loved ones return. The Matterhorn is a paradox, beautiful and deadly, admired and feared. Its pyramid has inspired logos, posters, and art, but it is also a grave for hundreds of climbers. The Matterhorn does not forgive mistakes, and that is why, after all this time, it remains not just one of the world's most iconic peaks, but one of its deadliest. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more journeys into the world's deadliest mountains and most impossible climbs. And let me know which peak I should cover in the next video.